And hi there, and welcome to episode 3 of A Diary of a Wayshower with myself, Lynn. And thank you for tuning in to this third episode. So, this week I wanted to talk about times when we require deep faith, when we require to dig deep to that inner strength and that inner power that we have, even though at times we may feel that we're sinking and actually, that we're in some sort of quicksand, being pulled down by circumstances that we can't control, and we just are so worried, our inner fears, our ancestral fears, or the way we were brought up, our belief systems, and the things that we've seen as a child sort of overtake that inner strength and light that we all have as souls here on this planet, and how we were created as the angelic human blueprint for humanity, Human, which is God man, Human, Hu man. Human means God man, creator incarnated into a physical body. And I know in episode 1 I spoke about my dark night of the soul last year, my Saturn return, which was extremely challenging and probably the biggest test of my life so far. And it felt like it was, several initiations rolled into one, to be honest. So in talking about faith, I'm talking about the fact that inherently in us there is that inner divine presence, that energy of soul sitting in our body, sitting in our higher heart center, and that's where our soul energy resides. And it's very, very the more we concentrate on that, and the more we realize that the heart is the compass and GPS for soul, then we can use that heart to navigate through extremely difficult times. And if I can remember rightly, as my difficult, challenging times of last year or so, I do remember being shown that my inner light would show me the way. My own light within me would be a torch to use to walk through this tunnel, this black tunnel that I seemed to be in, or black cave, where I couldn't see where I was going to come out or what it was going to look like, where it was going to be. I was just in this darkness, walking through with only the inner light of my heart and soul that was leading the way. So I was walking blind as such. I was walking and I didn't know where the sides were or if there was any obstacles either side. All I could do was have deep faith that my soul and the light of my soul was guiding me to an entrance point, an exit point out of the darkness into somewhere new that I needed to be. And that requires deep courage. And we've all been through these times, haven't we? Whatever it is, in times of grief, when we lose a loved one, a husband, a wife, a child, a parent, we can grieve really, really deeply. And at times, you don't know how you're going to get through it, do you? Or how you're going to make it to the next day, especially if you've lost someone tragically, or they've died unexpectedly, or you've lost a child. I thank God, hand over heart, I've never lost a child like that, not in this lifetime. So I wouldn't know how that feels. But I did lose a baby. Uh, my first pregnancy, I lost a baby, but it was a bit of a surprise anyway, to be honest. So I was, it's sort of, you're young, you tend to get over that, don't you? And I did get pregnant again about 3 months later. So, it wasn't too traumatic, and it was very early on in the pregnancy. So, I was able just to get pregnant uh, sort of quite quickly afterwards. But for others, when we have a death, uh, it's absolutely devastating, and it takes someone a long time to get over that. And grief has many different stages, So I'm sending my love to anybody who is going through that right now. And to be honest, I do understand how you feel, because I've been going through my own grief, and I will talk about that in future episodes, when I can reveal. So yeah, we all have these like times where we're deeply challenged, and it's remembering the divine within you, and that we can't remember why we came here, really, do we? We don't remember what we discussed before we signed the contract to come and incarnate on earth. And the amount of times I've had a joke with my highest soul guides and my soul, and said, really, are you sure I signed the contract to come down here? Really? Because just a sense of humour, just sometimes you need, don't you? To the total, really, at times, absurdity of this life experience and what we go through, in all its deep intensities of the amount of times when we've had great joy and bliss and been on cloud nine and floating, and at the other times when we feel like we've dropped into that black abyss and void, and we just don't know what's going to happen next. And it triggers all of our primal survival skills, and our primal fears rise up. But deep faith is required for this journey, for us as star seeds and light workers. Faith that your I am presence has got this. And they have. They know exactly what they are doing. They know exactly where you are going. And that's something I think I'm proud of, in a way, that I have managed to have that deep faith in my I am presence. And I have managed to always sometimes surrender when I can't possibly know what's going to happen. I can't control the situation. It seems hopeless. It seems desperate. It seems like your whole world is collapsing. And it might not be that bad, but you feel it in that way, if you know what I mean. And you surrender it to the divine. You surrender it to your I am presence and the higher power. Of course, the higher power is you. And we awaken to our higher power as we move along this journey. But just what I mean is surrendering it to a place where they can see everything. They're omnipresent. They can see everything in greater detail. So if we imagine that we're at the bottom of a pyramid and we cannot see what's on top of the pyramid, so we're in this reality in like the bottom of the pyramid, and we're only seeing things from a certain level, from a certain angle, from a certain filter. But if we were to be given the steps up to the top of the pyramid, and we were to look down at ourselves, at a situation or problem or situation we're in, and we were to look down from the top of the pyramid, we might discover that actually there were so many different solutions, but we just can't see that. And also, so many different aspects of the reality that you're in right now, but you can't see from someone else's perspective or from someone else's reality. And that is a hard one, isn't it, to get your head round? But that is living multidimensionally, when you can sort of allow yourself to make your own decisions about your life and to take the inner guidance, the inner knowing, and have deep, deep faith that the decision you're making or the action that you're taking or the bag you're packing to go somewhere, even though you don't know why, is the right thing to do, is the guided thing to do, and to take that leap of faith and to do it. And that is all about flow, isn't it? And synchronicity. Because the more that we listen to our inner knowing and that gut intuition and feeling, the more we get into flow and synchronicity. Because, you know, that morning that you wake up and you feel drawn that you've got to drive 100 miles to this place and you don't really want to go, but it's so strong and it keeps repeating that you just don't know how you can't do it, because it's just right there in between your eyes. So you decide, well, I'm not working today. Okay, let's get in the car and let's go. And that happened to me. That happened to me when I went to Glastonbury, and I was drawn to go. This was years ago when I'd just woken up and I didn't really know anything about Glastonbury at all. And I just had a repeating song in my head, Avalon by Roxy Music, and it wouldn't go away, and it went on for days. And and then a few other synchronicities came in, and before I knew it, you know, I woke up one morning and I just thought, this has got to be it. This has got to be today. I'm fed up of listening to this song, and like, I have to go. And luckily, my children were, I think, at school, or were away for the weekend, I think, with their dad, and I was on my own for the whole day. I decided to just get in the car and drive. So I got in the car and I drove to Glastonbury. It wasn't too far away from where I was living at the time. It was about 80 miles away, an hour and 45 probably, or an hour and 40. I was there. And I just had such a magical, magical time. That's synchronicity, isn't it? That's being in flow. That's being synchronistic. That's being, another term people say is in the vortex. Because you are just listening to that inner knowing, and it's telling you, go here. You need to go here. And we've all done it, haven't we? We've all been drawn to go somewhere, and we've met someone that maybe we knew before, but we needed to meet them again that day. Or you've gone somewhere and bumped into someone you haven't seen for years because you're meant to see them. We've all done it. And I think it's such an important thing to talk about for star season light workers and wayshowers, that we listen to our inner knowing, and we let the divine guide us to solutions and new opportunities and new spaces and places with listening to this inner knowing. And I have tried, in all the years I've been awake, I've tried to abide by that. I've tried to live my life to that. It's probably a little bit easier now with being by myself, that I can just take off. I can just go. If I feel I'm guided to go somewhere, I can just go. And knowing that there's a reason why I have to go, or there's a reason that I have to attend something or sign up for something, it just like, it becomes blatantly obvious to me that I have to do it. And that's another thing we have to talk about, is repeating guidance. And when you have repeating guidance, of course, your I am presence is saying to you, listen, take notice, look, take action, take action, take action. And sometimes, it depends on what it is that we're being told or shown. We might not want to take action if it's scary, or we think we're out of our comfort zone, or whether we're scared a bit of the outcome. I'll just tell you a little story, and this dates back to. I'm trying to remember when it dates back to 1997. So I was married to my first husband, and I was very unhappy. And I've been with him in total for about 12 years, but we've been married for about 5 years. And there was a lot of bullying and control, emotional abuse, and it was getting worse. And I was very unhappy, and my children were young, and that was the one thing that was worrying me. I had a son who was about 4 years old, 4.5 years old actually, probably, and I had a son who was only 2. And it just was becoming blatantly obvious that if I was to stay in that marriage, that my total, mental health would have declined even. It would just get worse. I was working as a credit controller in an office in Heathrow. My boss was a nice guy, and I remember him taking me to the side at a company do that we were at in the evening, and it was a leaving do for someone. And I'd gone out just to, say goodbye to this person, have a couple of drinks, whatever. I got picked up and I was taken to this place where we had a little meal and a drink to say goodbye. And my boss pulled me aside and said to me, "Where has Lynn gone? Where has my bubbly, sparkly, funny Lynn gone?" Because I'd worked with him for 5 years. And he said, I've lost you. You have just disappeared. You are, you look miserable, you look upset, you look worried, you look stressed, you've lost weight, you look pale. You feel like it looks like you've got the world on your shoulders right now. Is everything okay? Well, that hit me like a ton of bricks, and that was about 6 months before I actually left. And so that was that first, like, I'd had that nudge but didn't do anything about it. And then I was, as I say, building up intensity of, I've got to end this marriage. I've got to end this marriage. This is not going to end well for me. I was being shouted at. I was being, he would sort of arrive home late at night. So he would stop me being able to go to fitness, go and do gym or play squash or keep up with my fitness or anything like that, because I was working as well. There was lots of things going on, and I was just getting more miserable by the day. And it was one particular bank holiday weekend. In fact, it was it was the weekend before Princess Diana died in Paris in the car crash. So it was a weekend before. And I was, it was a Saturday night, and I had this on my mind all day. I've got to tell him, I've got to tell him, I've got to tell him. And I don't tell him because I was scared about how he was going to react. Was he going to get violent? Was he going to cause a scene? Well, I just didn't know. Was he going to try and chuck me out? Because his temper was just almost like demonic. So, like, what am I going to do about this? Anyway, my sons were in bed and they were asleep. And then one of my sons started crying in the night. He'd had a nightmare, a night terror or a nightmare. And he started crying. So I went into his bedroom to comfort him, and I got in bed with him to cuddle him, to get him to go to sleep. So as he's sleeping next to me and I'm looking down at him, I'm just thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? I'll just stay here all night. I'll sleep with him in this bed all night. That's the easier option. I'll just do that. And as I started to fall asleep next to him, looking at his beautiful, gorgeous face and his blonde hair, a voice sounded in my ear, and it said, Lynn, Lynn, get up and go and make a cup of tea. And when you get up and go and make a cup of tea, your husband will follow you and he'll ask you if everything's okay. And tell him that the marriage is over and that you want to separate. Because if you don't do it now, you won't do it for a long time. And it's time. And that voice was so clear, so profound. It was a man's voice, it wasn't mine. And I was just shocked. Where did this voice come from? At the time, I wasn't really, I denied that I was psychic, but I knew I was intuitive. I believed in angels. I believed in eternal life. I believed the soul was eternal. I always believed that. It was always a big belief I had. But this voice was very firm with me and was telling me, if you don't do this now, you won't for a long time, and you will suffer for it. And I did it. And in that moment, it was like, do I let this moment pass me by? Because I've been told, and I couldn't even quite tell whether it was myself. Was it myself, my thoughts telling me to do it? Was it my, what was it? It was just really weird. But the voice had been so sort of insistent, and it was like one moment changes your life, and I had to dig deep for that deep faith. That voice, I believe, was telling me to leave, and was telling me, if you don't do this now, you'll not do this for a long time, and it will get worse. And in that moment, I took a leap of faith, and I got out of bed. My little boy was fast asleep. I got out of bed. I walked downstairs. I put the kettle on, and he walked downstairs as the voice had told me he would. And he came in the living room. He looked at me and he said, "What's wrong?" I know there's something wrong. So I told him. I told him all about the fact that, I was being bullied, I was being controlled, I was being handled and managed. I didn't like his temper with me or the boys. I didn't think it was healthy for them to be around a man who was ranting and raging and throwing things around. He just crumpled. He didn't get mad, actually. He crumpled. But I was really steadfast and strong in my conviction that voice, whatever it was, and I think it was really, I'm trying to remember, I think that I knew that was like more than myself, that it was almost like divine intervention or my guardian. I believe now that it was my guardian angel, and I believe my guardian angel spoke to me to encourage me to leave. And I'm so glad I did, because the deterioration of the behaviour of him after that became untenable, and I had a lucky escape, really. Even though the behaviour for the next 18 months till I could leave that property was pretty bad, and it got worse. It turned into physical abuse, a couple of times, which, you know, I was very lucky as well that that was witnessed by neighbours that were able to call for the police on my behalf. But at the time, there wasn't any proper laws on that, so they really weren't prepared to do much. I think at one stage he was arrested for a disturbance and for using threatening behaviour against me. But I was a bag of nerves, as you can imagine, and intimidation, and all of those things happened afterwards. Narcissistic abuse, and there you go. I went through the rung there. I was about 20. How old was I then? I was about 32, 31, 32 when that. No, I was 32, coming up to my 33rd birthday, which again, it's interesting that 33, I'm like separated and ended my marriage. And at 44, I woke up and actually started to all my channels. I woke up when I was 44, September 44. So it was like I was going through these gateways, which we do, the master numbers in numerology. That's all part of it. So it's really interesting that uh, was going on, and interesting that on my 55th, if I think about it, my 55th birthday or around there, that was when the abuse and my history of abuse was rising up to be examined and looked at in great detail. So all of these, so God knows what's going to happen when I'm 66. We'll see. I've got a while to go yet. So all of these, that required deep faith in me to be able to sort of dig deep and do the right thing. But I did it, and I do believe that was divine intervention. I do believe that was my guardian angel warning me and telling me to leave now, or not to leave, but to end the marriage, end it now. And I did. And a week later, it was very upsetting. I always remember this. Princess Diana died in that car crash. I think my mum and dad were staying with me at the time. They'd come down to help to look after the boys, as I was trying to get into work, and try and organise things a bit, after something like that happens. So that's a very sad time when she died as well. But it's all in that sort of week. It was quite crazy that she died. Literally 7 days after I had that incident with the guardian angel that, as I say, spoke to me, and I believed that, and even then, even though I'd not woken up, and it would take quite a bit longer, 12 years, 13 years before I properly woke up. I knew something had happened to help me there, and I held that in my heart, that something had assisted me, and it's times, isn't it, when people have listened to that voice in their head or that guardian angel that has guided them to avoid an accident or to drive a different route home, and they avoid an accident. So I did, and I do believe in the voices that we get, and the urges and the inner knowings and the signs, and that we take action on those, because the universe is always wanting to help us. It's always wanting to guide us and steer us in the right direction, and there's no wrong direction. It's just a roundabout route, isn't it? Sometimes we make a decision and we think, I wish I'd not done that, but it's experience and wisdom banked, and very much sometimes we need to make that mistake to get it right on the second time, or to know what we don't want. I'm a great believer in that, and my faith has kept me alive. My faith has kept me going when I could have given up and been a survivor of satanic ritual abuse and demonic programming. Um, how many survive? How many commit suicide and give up? Uh, and there was no way I was going to do that. There was no way I was going to give them the satisfaction of ruining my life. Um, in fact, I came in knowing fully well what I was facing. That's what I believe. That's what my guidance has always been. I knew what I was coming into. I chose this family line. I chose this ancestral family. I knew what I needed to do before I came here, and I knew it would be hard, and I knew I would be hit hard. But if I couldn't have withstood it, or then I wouldn't, I thought, have chosen to do this in this way. So I have to take consolation with that my I am presence knew that we would get through this, and we could do it. I mean, there was one, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, I can't remember, but when I was building up to, and I was seeing all this behaviour in the husband that I left last year, my second husband, and I could see this really odd behaviour coming from him, uh, and him not really uh, sort of acting like he did before. I was asking questions all the time. I'd go to bed early and meditate. I would get into my heart center and ask the question, what is this? What's going on? Why is this happening? Uh, so I would always take direction from what my inner knowing told me and what action I needed to take. Um, and that's something that I've trained myself to do over a number of years, because I know that I can't, my guidance is never wrong. Uh, the inner knowing that I have always leads me to a decision or a revealment of something. It's like I've got a sixth sense and a very, almost like a dog's nose with being able to suss out people and knowing when something's off, knowing when they've changed, knowing when they're up to something, knowing when there's an energy behind them and they're acting maybe normal, but there's something wrong. I feel the shift in energy. I see the person stood behind them. I can feel an entity stood behind someone. I can feel that, and I'm never wrong. And I know that's a bit of a claim to, but I'm never wrong. I've never been proven wrong with that when I've known something is off, and then been on guard. And that sensitivity and that empath energy has stood me in good stead with knowing when to be on guard and to look out. I suppose with that, I don't know, maybe that survivor's instinct as well with what I went through, um, looking out for danger, and but then that can have a double-edged sword of you being too cautious or being too nervous or being in fear. So there's got to be a balance. But my inner knowing and my intuition and my, uh, I suppose you call it clairvoyance, my intuitive uh, abilities to see through people and the energy behind them, I've I've had for a long time, and uh, as I say, it's one of the gifts the divine gave me, Source, Mother, Father, God. I'm very grateful that I have that, and that ability stands me in good stead when I am, navigating this world as such. Uh, but deep faith, you know, uh, gets people through so much, doesn't it? People going through, uh, you know, battles with cancer and or they've got a child who's ill, who's going through tremendous treatment and a mountain to climb to try and get full health. They have faith in, a deep faith that their child will get better, that things will turn out all right in the end. And all we can do when we don't really know what to do, all we can do is surrender it. And I do, that's something I say to all of my mentoring clients and students. And it's like, look, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything. Surrender it. Give it to the cosmic divine mother, and surrender it with your heart and say, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to give it to you for a solution. Can you bring me a solution? Because that's for everybody's highest good. And then at least you know that the divine is making arrangements. That's how I see it, that the divine is making arrangements, and it is working on your behalf, always on your behalf. I mean, I'm not saying, like at times I've been frustrated, I've shouted, I've ranted, and raved and stomped my feet because something hasn't gone the way I want it to, or I've asked for assistance and it doesn't seem to have come. Why is that? Like all of that stuff. We're having a human experience, and we're supposed to feel our emotions. But of course, it's about healing the emotional body, isn't it? So that we've got balanced emotions and we can control our emotions and see things from a clearer perspective. And that's another aspect, I suppose, from abuse, of the things that we have to sort of conquer, is that sort of a feeling where we make decisions that sometimes are not for our highest good because we are making them out of fear and panic. And that is something I've had to train myself out of, is making a decision. It's not coming from the heart, it's not coming from that balanced place, it's coming from a fearful place, but you don't even realize that it's a fearful place, but it is. And if you're not coming from a balanced viewpoint or a balanced energy, you can really sort of get yourself into a little bit of a panic, or be making decisions that are maybe need a little bit longer to be sat on, or are short-term fixes, but really you should be looking at the long-term solutions. And that's very much a knee-jerk reactions from survivors of abuse of any type. I mean, mine, what the background is with mine, and any survivors of abuse, we can't think from a stable place. If I was to express it or try and get you to understand what it feels like for those that haven't suffered from abuse, but I mean, most people on this planet have got some level of abuse, that has taken place. But for those that really don't understand what we mean by that, it's like you imagine like a jelly, a wobbly jelly, and like an abuse survivor has got their feet on top of the wobbly jelly, and they're wobbling about all the time, and they're waiting for the next attack. They're waiting for the next dangerous event. They're waiting for the next event that puts them in that situation again. And the body is actually looking out for that all the time. All the time. The body's just looking out for that. So the body just is on high alert all the time. So, you've got adrenal fatigue and your cortisol levels are off the scale, and your adrenaline, you're an adrenaline junkie, and you are completely living life on the edge, because you don't know any other way to live. You don't know what normal means. You don't know what serenity and inner peace mean, because you've never experienced that due to the abuse that you've been through. And as I say, that's very hard for someone who hasn't been through that level of abuse or been through continued abuse as a child or teenage years, or even been through an abusive marriage where you've married a narcissist or had narcissistic relationships. You won't realise what level of damage that does to you on so many levels, and it not only affects you on an emotional level and a mental body level, a physical level, uh, also it's on a light body level. It damages your light body. Can you believe that? It damages everything. uh, the energy of that abuse affects your soul on so many different levels, and that's what I teach, because I see it from that level, and that's what I was meant to, and I had to go through it. I evidently chose it to be able then to understand it and what it does, and then what can we do to solve it. um, and I'm still a work in progress, like anybody suffering from the after effects of abuse. I'm I'm still a work in progress, but I have a deeper sense now of peace and serenity. Uh, I've got a very like sort of stable inner core self now. I'm able to make wiser decisions, not to panic like I used to do before, or to get in that fear or flight. Um, and I've worked on the inner child. The inner child is so important in this, especially if you've been abused as a child. That inner child could be fragmented, and that inner child also, the imprint of the abuse from you as a child, it's almost like it's imprinted on the timelines, at the different ages of when the abuse took place, and those have to be healed, and those inner childs have to be called in and healed and reunified, and then they will feel safer. My inner child, it felt like she was on my back, and she had her hands around my neck, and she was screaming in my ear constantly. Uh, and In fact, I locked up my inner child. And when I actually started doing my work to heal my inner child, fragmented inner child, I found her behind a brick wall. Um, and it's probably one of the most powerful moments. I remember it so clearly, of finding her locked behind a brick wall. This is energetically and symbolically I'm talking about. And I had to take one brick out. I was given a golden hammer by my higher self. I hit the brick wall. One brick dropped out, and I put my eyes through, and I was scared stiff to look like, oh God, what am I going to see? I looked through the uh, the brick, and I could see a little girl, about 5 years old, uh, dirty hair, uh, ragbar clothes on, uh, her head in her head in her lap, holding herself really tight into a ball, uh, fetal position really, on the floor, and nothing in there, pitch dark. And I was given a torch, and it had angel wings. It had like an attachment on it that put angel wings out onto the wall if they shone it to the wall. And I was told to put that into the room. So I threw it into the room, and I just started talking to her and telling her I loved her, and that I was here for her. I'd come to rescue her. I wasn't leaving. I wasn't leaving till I got her. And she was just so scared of me. So scared. And I left her with the torch, and I was told to leave her 24 hours. And I came back the next day, and I looked through the brick, and she was shining the angel golden wings on the wall. and she was just playing with the torch all the time. And I then knocked more bricks out. I think I put some toys in for her. Not that she wanted them, she didn't. And I just kept talking to her over and over again. Uh, I know I've diversified really onto the inner child, but it's linked to that deep faith really, that anything can be healed, anything can be healed, anything can be sorted. And, that little girl needed that faith. She needed it. She needed me to have that faith to be able to heal her. And then the bricks sort of like fell down, and I was given the nod, step in. And I sat on the floor next to her. I didn't do anything, and I just started talking, over and over again. You can tell me what happened to you. It's okay. She was mute. She couldn't talk. She had lost her voice. And she was sort of just looking at me. And then we managed to actually start using the golden horned unicorns that came in to me, King and Queen of Unicorns actually at the time, Galbrothia and Galbrossa, and they came and started working with me and her. And by about 2 weeks, we had her in like this little pink nursery with a pink heart-shaped bed cover, and she was playing with unicorns and just lightening up and lightening up and lightening up. And that was sort of the start really of me pulling down the layers of the inner child fragmentation, which occurs, when you get sort of very severe abuse, and disassociation, where you disassociate and you forget your memories and you don't remember what happened. And I'm sure I'll talk about that in later episodes at some stage. But, if I can heal my inner child, and to the level and degree that she was, fragmented, then I know that there is hope for all of you out there. And there are so many different ways that you can do this. And there are so many amazing healers out there and new quantum healing methods to heal now and advance it and do it much quicker, so that you can end that internal suffering, and get back to wholeness and oneness. So I'm going to end it there now. I hope that this has helped you in some way. There is so many reasons to be grateful. I have so many beautiful reasons to be grateful, and I have got that deep faith that I've never lost. At times, I've done my hissy fits. I've stamped my feet. I've said I'm not working for you again because something's gone wrong, and I thought it should have worked, and that was just the ego stomping around and saying, hold on a minute, I want to be in control, whereas actually soul's in control. And after what I went through last year and having to totally and utterly surrender to everything because nothing was in my control, nothing, then after that, evidently there was a dissolving of other layers of my ego as I've sort of had to surrender to I am presence, like this is dangerous, get out, da da da. You have to leave everything. No, you can't go back and get your stuff. No, you can't do this. No, you can't just wait. No, you've got to go now. Da 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 da. I had to just take that deep faith, and that was the test, I suppose, wasn't it, folks? To another level of faith, another initiation on this journey of constant initiations of the ascension pathway. And it's not a bed of roses. It wasn't never meant to be. We reinitiate ourselves, don't we? To make sure that we are at and maintain the level that we know we are as an old soul, as a soul that came here to to be here for this big transition on the planet right now. And so I'm going to leave it there. And thank you so much for listening. And if you like this, could you subscribe to my Diary of a Wayshower channel on YouTube? Also, I'm on Spotify, and also I've got a Substack account which I don't charge subscribers for. I would really appreciate it if you sign up for that as well. That just helps me get my work out there and gets me to assist more people and to inspire more people to get up and heal and to keep going, because you are loved. We're all loved, and you're not alone. That's for sure. You're not alone. So I'm sending you all my love on this Earth Day of the 22nd of April, Mama Gaia's Day. And till next time, thank you for listening, and bye for now.